Welcome, folks, to another fan-fucking-tastic episode of RfRx. My name is Eric Wells, and I am the support group director for Recovering from Religion. And with me is Trent Emery, and he is a helpline agent for Recovering from Religion. Good day to you, sir.
And to you as well, good sir.
Folks, we are here today at RfRx, and you're kind of wondering what the heck is RfRx? Well, RfRx is where we bring on guests, really some fantastic guests, to talk about topics that the people who come to Recovering from Religion struggle with. So things like the fear of hell, things like how to develop, how to have a mixed belief relationship, even secular parenting or religion-specific things, discussions. And so these are really, really great discussions that we're having. And this, I gotta say, this isn't at all a replacement for the online communities. It's not a replacement for the helpline, nor is it a replacement for the support groups. Instead, this is really kind of complementary to those programs that we've got. More often than not, what we find is that the discussions that we have here will show up in the support groups, or they'll show up in the online community, or even people will come to the chat line and say, hey, this really kind of triggered, this discussion triggered something for me. I want to talk about it. So we're here with the experts and the fantastic people to provide some great advice, some good coping skills. So if you have any questions or comments or inquiries or suggestions, you can email us at rfrx@recoveringfromreligion.org. And if you miss any or some of this recording, or if you want to look back at some of the other conversations, the other discussions we have, which we've had almost 100. Folks, we're going to be hitting 100 episodes in March. So we're almost there. So if you want to see any of those past ones, they're just as great as this one's going to be. We've got a YouTube channel where they're all recorded on that too. So I've been throwing around the initialism RFR. Some of you may have no idea what that stands for. That stands for Recovering from Religion. And we are a nonprofit organization, volunteer-driven, and we have an amazing mission statement, and which is to offer hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non-belief. So we've kind of broken up our different programs into the categories of hope, healing, and support. So Trent, why don't you start off and telling us about how we're addressing the healing part of our mission?
Yes, sir. Happy to do so, and thank you. So healing is done in a number of different ways here at RFR. And one of those is a helpline. The helpline exists for us to provide a service where we can listen with an empathetic ear. There is absolutely no judgment, no criticism, no convincing you to change your mind. It's just there to support you through a trying time. And this is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through the chat line or through the phone calls. And resources are available, if you're curious, at recoveringfromreligion.org. That's going to be in the chat. And so moving on from healing, we have hope, and that's sharing and listening to personal stories. We are all in this together. And so many of us have come from a place that it was hard to leave, and finding a soft place to land is very important. And that's what we're here for. So we also have a blog and a podcast you can listen to. And those are also going to be in the chat, medium.com/xcommunications, as well as at recoveringfromreligion.org/podcast. And moving on from hope, we have support. That's what we're doing.
Oh, come on. Are you going to talk about this?
Sorry. Yes, we have peer support groups, face-to-face meetings. Sometimes it's hard to get your emotions across and to feel connected with people if you're not in person. This is a way for you to be able to do that, to have a community, to get to know people in your area and have like-minded people around you. There are 65 groups around the world, and we're looking to form even more. I know a lot of places and a lot of people who think that there aren't people who think like me around you. Trust me, there are. And if you want to start a group, please contact us. And you can also find one if you're just looking to participate on the website, RFR, recoveringfromreligion.org. We also have meetups, and you can check out meetup groups that we have So meetup.com/pro/recovering-from-religion. And check that out if you're interested in socializing with fellow like-minded people. One thing that I'm really proud of that we are connected with, and I think it is a wonderful service and I think should be the industry standard, is the Secular Therapy Project. Secular Therapy Project connects you with a licensed secular mental health specialist. I don't know about you guys, but I've had a personal experience talking with a therapist who has brought up religion or woo. And if that's not a part of your worldview, it's hard to know or trust that that person can heal you properly with the best science. These people do, and they will. Great connection, Secular Therapy Project. Check out the website. You won't regret it if you're looking for a good licensed secular therapist. They are carefully screened and they have the appropriate licensing no matter where it is, the state or county. Secular practice, as I mentioned, no proselytizing whatsoever, and they use the best evidence-based treatments, seculartherapy.org. Eric,
Folks,
on to you.
Thank you so much. None of you told me, hey, where the heck is the poll? Because I screwed up. I didn't launch the poll at the beginning. I'm going to do that now. Folks, so we have got a poll. Let me back up. At the beginning of every RfRx, we have a poll, and we have it's got questions designed to kind of get you in the mindset, get you thinking about what we're going to be talking about today. So we have 4 questions today. The first is, do you maintain close ties with people from your religious community? We've got 4 answers. Yes, even though I'm not out yet. Yes, even though I'm out of the community. I still have a few friends from the community, but they're not super close. No, I don't, or I'm still religious. Question number 2, are you out about no longer being religious? Yes to everyone, yes, but to only people I trust. No, or I'm still religious. Question number 3. Has your self-expression changed since leaving religion, such as I no longer turn the other cheek or something like that? Yes, a lot, somewhat, not really, or I'm still religious. And question number 4, are you living the life you want to live? Totally, a little bit, or not at the moment. So those poll questions will be will be running while we're finishing up this intro, and I'm going to shut it down as we begin to introduce our amazing guest. I'm excited to introduce her to you. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled outline. The online community, Recovering from Religion, has an online community. We saw a need to kind of connect people to one another who have gone through similar situations, have had similar issues when recovering from religion or transitioning out of religion or experiencing doubts. And so this is a private community on Slack. You're not able to find it by searching the interwebs, and you have to get an invite. If this sounds interesting to you, head to the helpline and they'll ask you a few questions to see if you're a good fit. But this is a place, an entire community of people with several different channels where you can meet like-minded people who are struggling with the same issues you may be struggling with. For example, if you are a member of the LGBT community, if you are a current or former military person in the military, soldier, or I don't know what the right, I always stumble around that. Or if you are like an put your religion here, ex-Muslim, ex-Jehovah's Witness, we've got a channel for you, and that channel is filled with people who experienced very similar things, have gone through similar things to you. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to the helpline, talk to one of our agents, and they'll see if you're a good fit for that. Now, if you are looking for an amazing community of people, of non-believers, and love to kind of get into some trouble or have some good conversations, I would recommend, yes, you guys guessed it, the Atheist Community of Discord, because right now, those fine folks are streaming this fine show into their Discord channel. Thank you very much, Atheist Community Discord. I've dropped a link into the chat, and there will be one in the YouTube description as well. Trent, take it away.
Yes, sir. And lastly, we have what we're doing here for all you fine folks, volunteering. So I've experienced this myself. I'm sure you have as well, but healing can come from helping other people too. In fact, sometimes that's the only way some people can really achieve proper healing. And this is a great way to do it. You're giving back to a wonderful community. The best people I've ever been a part of. Trust me, hands down. So if you're interested, please contact RFR. You'll find purpose and meaning to everything that you've been feeling. A lot of these feelings, they get tucked inside of us. Trust me, this is a great way to be with your community, to help other people who have been struggling through some of the very things that you yourself may have already been struggling through. So we're always in need of volunteers. So please, if you're interested or you have any extra time whatsoever, give the time that you have. It's nothing, no one's gonna, string you up, and this isn't some fundamentalist organization. We're just happy to have help where we can get it. So recoveringfromreligion.org/volunteer, that's going to be in the chat. Eric, back to you.
Thank you, my friend. Folks, last week we kind of announced it, and this week I'm going to say it again. We have the Recovering from Religion annual fundraiser coming up. Now, Ethan Michael over at Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist is hosting this annual fundraiser. It is the second year in a row and he's doing it, and we're so incredibly grateful, and we can't really even thank him enough. I meant to get some links. I'll get some links in a little bit. But this is our only annual fundraiser. Last year, we exceeded our goal. And so we bumped our goal up a little bit this year, and we're hoping to exceed it again. The stream is being hosted by Ethan on his YouTube channel. And so get out your calendars, folks. I'll wait. Whether it's paper, it's on the wall, or it's on your phone, I'll get your calendars out. It's February 19th, 9 p.m. Central Time. And he's going to have a ton of fantastic guests. Next week, I'll let you know who those guests are, or some of those guests are, but you know who they are. You've heard about them. One of them, Dr. Darrel, he's sitting in the program right now, and he will be there as well. These funds, they all go to pay for the costs that are associated with the programs that we've mentioned above, the support groups, what you're seeing here, and so many other programs. Even though we're all volunteers, none of us are getting paid, we still have costs to run and provide these awesome programs. All right, with that announcement over, let me get into the meat of this and let you know what to expect. First off, folks, we have enabled closed captioning. So if you like to read subtitles, if that works better for you, if you're in a space where you kind of need to be able to read it as opposed to having it going through your speakers, take a look at, what is it called? The live transcript feature, and you should be able to enable the subtitles. For the first hour, we're going to have a discussion with our amazing guest. You guys have seen her before. Then during that hour, you're probably going to have some questions. More often than not, you're going to have some questions. So please type them into the chat. Not only here at Zoom, but also over there at the Atheist Community of Discord. We're monitoring that as well. So we're going to gather up those questions, and for about 20 or 30 minutes after our discussion, we'll have a Q&A session. Once that's all wrapped up, we're going to have some closing thoughts by our founder and president, the one, the only Dr. Darrel, and he's going to share what he thought about and what came up for him with this discussion as well. Then once that's all done, it's not over, folks. You may think it is, but it's not. We're going to close the recording, shut the recording off. We're going to open up the lines, and we're going to hang out. Hopefully our guests will be able to stick around and hang out with us during the hangout, and you guys can ask some follow-up questions and tell her what this discussion meant to her, kind of what it meant to you and what came up for you. So, oh my gosh, that's a mouthful. Trent, would you like to have the honor of introducing our amazing guests?
I certainly would, and I'm humbled. And it's great to have you back, Janice. Thank you very much again for taking the time to do this. So here's a bio. As a counselor and religious recovery consultant with a personal history of religious trauma syndrome, Janice is passionate about helping others understand their losses and embrace their new identity in the secular world. Her own deconversion experience compelled her to develop the online Divorcing Religion Workshop, a 6-week interactive workshop combining written exercises and group work to bring together those from diverse backgrounds who are walking a similar journey. In addition, Janice founded the online conference on religious trauma, CORT, in, fancy, what do they call those?
Just say CORT, Trent. Just say CORT. an acronym.
Yeah, fancy
Thank you, acronyms. We got to have acronyms for everything. This is going to be held online April 29th through May 1st of 2022 this year.
Okay.
And also the Shameless Sexuality Life After Purity Culture Conference happening online October 14th through the 16th also this year, 2022.
Mhm.
Wonderful stuff.
Janice, welcome. It
Thank
is so good to see your beautiful face again.
you. You know, I was talking with someone special today and telling them just how delighted that I am to be able to come back to your program. I really consider it an honor when I'm invited to share someone's platform. So thank you for inviting me back again and again.
Heck yeah. So I know that CORT was really kind of struggling to get off the ground because of this stupid pandemic that we're going through, but you made it happen. I don't know if we've talked to you since it's happened. Janice, how was CORT that conference last year?
It was amazing. And when I was putting it together, I didn't know if there'd be like 30 people who might be interested. And as of today, so we kept selling tickets even long after the conference because the recordings are all available. We sold over 330 tickets to that conference. That was our inaugural event. So it was super exciting. And now I've got all the speakers in line for CORT 2022 coming up in just a few months. And then, of course, looking ahead to the Shameless Sexuality Life After Purity Culture Conference. And that's the first of its kind. And we have some very, pardon the pun, we have some very exciting speakers at the Shameless Sexuality Conference. It's going to be good.
Well, I'm all riled up, and you've grabbed my attention. I want to check this conference out. I was there last year too, watching it through Zoom, and just the guests were awesome, and the discussions were really fantastic. Thank you so much for. And I know this is a lot of work to do, so thank you so much for putting the work in to do this.
It's I love doing it, and it's very taxing at the same time. And I want to offer your viewers a discount if they go to religionstraumaconference.org. That's for CORT. You can go to religionstraumaconference.org to see what we're about and to register. You're going to click the register or tickets or whatever, and then take you through so you can buy your tickets. And you can use the discount code. I believe it's podcast 20. And that's going to get you a nice little $20 discount.
I'm going to drop that link into the chat. So folks, take advantage of the discount code, please. Well, Janice, we're here to talk about the courage to be yourself. Now, that title is, of course, very attractive. It also feels a little clickbaity, but where would we start with this? I love it.
Well, I've got some quotes here because I know Darrel loves his quotes. So I've got a good one to start. By Oscar Wilde. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And I just love that. I think that's so brilliant. I mean, it really says it all. And figuring out who we are starts with figuring out who we aren't. And when we're raised in a religious or high control type home, we weren't really allowed to, we didn't have that option to explore who we were. It had to be, it was in a very confined area. So we weren't really allowed to be curious. We were supposed to be obedient instead. Same with creativity. We couldn't really express that other than, somehow to honor Jesus or, whoever it was that was being promoted in our home. So if you happen to fall outside of that very narrow view, and I'm thinking particularly of LGBTQ and Two-Spirit, etc. folks, and I fall into that category as well. And it was just really hard to be myself because I knew there's always this one part of me that was not okay because it wasn't okay in the Bible and it wasn't okay. I knew it wouldn't be okay with my parents. I married a straight fellow, and it definitely, it wouldn't have been okay with him. So that was just something that I could never allow myself to express. And then, of course, other things like I couldn't be myself in the sense of being a leader because women in the church weren't. I mean, I could maybe lead some women's ministry type things or some children's ministry. But I wasn't allowed to teach males or even really talk, authoritatively at all in front of men.
Oh,
And I was very fundamentalist. I wore a head covering and no makeup, no anything like that. So I really took it very seriously that women were second-class citizens, and not allowed to be teaching men. So I couldn't really be myself for a lot of years. And I kept myself in that confined space until I was almost 40. So that's a long time to be living someone else's life. That's another
so just
quote
a
I really like.
so just a few
Yeah.
years ago then.
Yeah, just a few years ago. That's right. Thank you for that. It's about 12 years ago now. So yeah, now when I see how my life is coming together as I've embraced who I am and I've allowed myself to explore whatever piques my interest and my curiosity, and then apply some of those leadership skills and other skills that I do have. And it's allowed me to develop a whole new career and really be helping people. So I like it. It's working for me.
I like that. I can relate. I like the small example that personally comes to mind for me is like I love cussing. I love cussing.
Me
And
too.
yeah.
Damn it.
I my mouth was so clean when I was a Christian. I gotta say, it had soap in it nearly every month. But man, but kind of when I transitioned out of religion, I really didn't know even where to begin. I didn't. It just and everything seemed so scary to kind of get out there and try out, because of this fear of being judged, this fear of still having a possibility of hell. It was really scary to kind of try anything new. And also, I think that there was a bit of some habitual mechanism going on too. Like, oh, I'm used to going to church every Sunday, wake up at 6 o'clock, get dressed, but nowhere to go, because I no longer go to church. There's this bit of habit too. I think that was a bit of a mix.
And just a huge question mark. If I'm no longer this devout homeschooling Christian wife and mother fundamentalist that I was, if I'm not those things, because they all dissolved, when I pulled on that first thread from my doubt, and it all started to unravel, I had no framework left. I had no skeleton or bones left to hang anything on. Nothing made sense. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I believed. I was terrified to make a move because, of course, I'd been taught if you don't believe in the Bible and you don't believe in God, you're a very immoral person. So probably you're just going to be, living a life of debauchery. And certainly I enjoyed my share of debauchery. I did allow myself to experience quite a bit of pleasure. But it was, just disconcerting and disorienting, trying to figure out who am I if I'm not that person. And it was also really hard because I had kids. I was still married at the time when I started having my doubts, and my kids were just in their teens, early and middle teens. And so they watched me transition from someone who was wound up very tightly with a million rules, because rules made me feel safe. And suddenly it's like, well, okay, I guess all those rules are gone. It's a free-for-all. Mom's getting tattoos and growing dreadlocks and just doing all kinds of stuff that was beyond the scope of what any of us were expecting. So it was hard trying to figure out who I was.
Yeah, because I felt my whole worldview was like this rug was pulled out from under me, and I no longer had something solid to stand on. My worldview was gone. It completely collapsed. And not only was I trying to kind of rebuild a whole new worldview, but then I was trying to discover myself at the same time. It was a lot. And for me personally, it sent me into depression for about 4 years. And I've been prone to depression as a kid. And I was part of the generation that was like, oh, if it's in your head, you should be able to fix it yourself, you weak boy. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I struggled with depression as well. And also, of course, the feeling of that I couldn't trust myself. And if I did have
Yeah.
any thoughts about an alternative kind of identity or sexuality or anything, it must be the devil. And so there's so much that you have to unlearn, you know, in order to get even just to a baseline, just to ground zero, before you could start um, rebuilding yourself. But there are costs of pretending, like I talked about, being just in that confining space where I couldn't entirely be myself, and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anxiety,
Oh,
irritability, depression. Those things can we're talking, yeah, they're when we leave religion, some of those things happen as we're contending with leaving, but also when we're staying in a place that's somewhat disingenuous for us, we are doing potentially a lot of medicating and self-medicating to try and repress who we really are. And that also means we were having some inauthentic relationships. If I can't authentically be myself, then my relationships, they're not really going to leave room for me to be myself. So it's important for us to figure out who we are, and what our values are. And so we knew when we were growing up in religious homes, we were told what our values were. We were told what to think and how to behave and what our values were. My values would have been modesty, humility, chastity, meekness, service, wisdom, like lots of things that just were very, that's what they were. And since leaving religion, I needed to spend some time doing values clarification. And here I'm going to bring up the name of a wonderful guest that you've had on. He's also going to be speaking at CORT, and his name is David Teachout.
oh,
And David,
David.
he's so wise. I really appreciate him. And he has a terrific website called lifeweavings.com. And on David's website, he has some great sheets you can print off about identifying values. So you can
Oh,
explore
nice.
some values clarification. So I named for you some of my former values: modesty, humility, chastity, meekness, and now to look at values that I have, they would be creativity, autonomy. Pleasure is a very big one for me now. I'm making up for lost time. I got my nails done, and so yes, I
You
see
couldn't
the
have your
pleasure.
nails done before?
Oh no, 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 no.
Oh,
No, I even have
wow.
like fancy fake eyelashes that are quite ridiculous. And
Wow.
I could not have those before either, because that was just vanity, vanity. And now I'm like, bring on the vanity. I'm gonna have some fun. If I like it, if it makes me feel good about myself, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, those are some,
Janice,
mhm,
can I back up and
yeah.
kind of make a distinction that sort of popped into my head
Uh-huh.
real quick? Um, so one of the things I was struggling with when I was transitioning out of religion was uh, kind of rebuilding my identity, which we're talking about here, and then
Yeah.
also rebuilding the worldview. The worldview was the easy part. I was able to rebuild that through watching videos, through reading books, through listening to podcasts and articles, and all that kind of stuff. Finding out who I was much more difficult. I actually had to go out into the world, and
Mm.
I still don't really fully feel like I know who I am, but I had to go out in the world and interact with people and try risky things and stuff like that. So I
Can
feel
you
like
elaborate?
so I feel like there was a bit of a distinction between the difference between rebuilding a worldview and I just remember the very first time I went to a secular group, I was in the corner
Mm.
sweating balls. Like I was so freaking nervous. What if one of my customers walks into this library, sees me there, and the whole world finds out that I no longer believe in this? My world's gonna my livelihood's gonna be affected. My wife's livelihood's
Mm.
gonna be affected.
Mm.
It's gonna be bad. So
Mm.
that was really, really hard for me.
Well, here's something you could try. You could decide you're going to host an international conference on religious trauma and let everybody know you're an atheist. You don't believe any of that religious bullshit anymore. Yeah, that was quite a coming out in that sense. And then as I became more comfortable in finding my voice in the atheist community, then I started speaking out more and promoting myself, promoting my divorce and religion workshop, and then of course doing lots of podcasts and lots of publicity for the conference on religious trauma. And my religious friends, most of them pretty much dropped off. I didn't get a lot of feedback about it, which is good. And I still find sometimes I want to almost not share with those people because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. And so it's okay to have those conflicting feelings sometimes. It's not because I'm unsure about myself and what I believe. It's because I love those people. And I would prefer it if we could maintain some kind of relationship, even if it only is through Facebook, and checking in once in a while and saying, hey, I see your kid had a birthday or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, most of those people are gone now. They're not part of my life. I've had to find and purposely build my own new communities, secular supportive communities. And some of them are around activities like, walking or bird watching or whatever. And then some of them just are groups I've found on Facebook or Recovering from Religion, your group. We don't like to be isolated. We like to be in the company of others who understand us. I wondered if you'd ever done any values clarification for yourself, Eric.
Oh, is this gonna be one of those talks? Values clarifications.
Yeah.
This is, I know all of those words individually.
Sure.
But walk me through what you mean when you put them all together.
Sure. So when you, on David Teachout's website, he has a page called Identifying Values, and it just has a list of a bunch of things that he considers values there. So achievement, physical challenge, growth, affection, arts, and he goes through the whole, just a whole list of things, what might be important to you. And our values change. They can change throughout our life. Did you have a question?
No, I was beginning to understand what you had meant. Okay.
Sure. Yes, our values are what matter to us, and that meaning gives our life purpose and direction. So he says, consider different periods in your life and what values did you have at that time. That can be valuable to look at exploring the difference between then and now. I know one relatively popular exercise among therapists for values clarification is imagine your funeral. You're going to be looking at the eulogy. So think of three people who might speak. Who would you want them to speak? What might they say? And then thinking about if you're writing out what they might say, kind of comparing and contrasting that. Is that the life that you're living right now? Or would you like your life to be different? Would you like to be able to express yourself differently than the way those people see you? We're here for such a brief time. This is it. It's not the dress rehearsal. This is what you got. Yeah. You don't have to spend it living someone else's expectations. You are here to live your own life, and there's no prize for being a martyr. So it's up to you to decide what your values are, what motivates you, what gives you pleasure, what makes you happy, and then build your life accordingly.
I hadn't looked at David's sheet before, a value sheet, until you just kind of put me on the spot here, and I'm looking at it now, and the questions are fantastic. And what's really neat is that the first page is just a list of a ton of different values. Of course, it doesn't list all of them because that would be
Right.
the dictionary basically. But then the second page is some introspection, some questions like what you had said, like what values would you hold important in the past? What values do you hold important now? What values do you think you'll have in the future? I can see that how helpful this would be. This is awesome. You ain't kidding, Janice. This is fantastic
Really,
stuff.
it's good stuff. I really liked a couple of the other things he had written there. He was talking about values. He says values are how we get triggered. And so think of a time you felt a strong reaction and identify what value was being unsupported or violated in that moment. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it's important. And you can even think back to, perhaps when you were a child and a parent did something or a sibling and it triggered you, and thinking of it in terms of values. What value did I have then that was being violated or unsupported? And we can think about it today too, because our values may be quite different today than they were when we were living a very religious life.
So let's kind of walk through this second question, and I'm happy to be the guinea pig, Trent, unless you'd like to be the guinea pig.
Well, it's actually funny. It seems like an appropriate plug here, but my secular therapist from the Secular Therapist Project had me focus a lot on values. And I found it a really helpful exercise in, well, first and foremost, not only figuring out what those values are. Sometimes you don't think about it. And it isn't until a moment comes up, like you're saying, where you're triggered or you hear something or you see something or you have just a passionate, visceral response that says, why did I have that reaction? It makes you think about why you have the values that you do. And to me, like going back to your first point about your personal identity and, having religion take that from you, something like your values, something that I learned through trying to understand my own values was that there were a lot of lines that ran through all of my life. So your values do change a lot. But something I noticed was that I have a common thread. Like I always believed this, but religion made me think that I didn't, And so I think that focusing on that is, really helpful to, this, I think, goes to not just religion and falling out of it, but for you to attach your identity to who you are, as opposed to having to attach it to anything else. Have good reasons for why you feel the way that you do about things. So credit again to my therapist for helping me with that.
Secular Therapy Project.
Exactly. But you make wonderful points about all of this. Yeah.
I didn't really give a thought to autonomy when I was a deeply devout Christian person. And in fact, the concept of autonomy would have been scary, and it would have felt incongruent to me because really I was a servant. I was here to serve, and that was my place, and that was where I was to find my delight in serving others. And certainly women are told that over and over again, but men also are told that, children are told that. So the whole concept of autonomy was just mind-blowing to me. And it took a long time in some ways for me even to figure out what I liked, because I was so used to being told what I liked, what I could like, what was really acceptable for me to like as a God-fearing Christian woman. Boy, oh boy, there are a lot of very pleasurable things that never came up in conversation that I know now I really like those things. And now I'm free to pursue them, because they're not hurting anyone else. They're not hurting me. I'm just enjoying it. But it's worth it for all of us to spend some time examining values, because they do impact our behavior. We typically act in accordance with the values that we have. And it's important also when we're going through our values not to be judgmental. People use the phrase moral and morality. I hate those words. I prefer to think of it in terms of personal ethics, and integrity. Like, what suits me now? What really fits me now? What do I earnestly believe and embrace. And I don't have any shame about those things. It's just who I am now. It's this radical acceptance of this woman I am at 52 years old at this point in my life. And it's good. It's good to be me.
I've always thought, you know, after exploring values too, one of the things that kept coming up, and something that I've been reminded through your talk here too, is that a lot of us not being able to be ourselves seems to come from fear, you know, fear of judgment, fear of whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, when you believe in God, who will literally fucking kill you for being a certain way, of
Yes.
course you're going to have that fear, but you
Yes.
have it even if you're just going through your daily life. Like, you're afraid of what other people will think of you. But one interesting thing in this idea of radical acceptance that I love, by the way, and think is so important and crucial, is that when I look at someone else, if part of my values are compassion and no judgment, right? And if I exercise those values for others, then I ought exercise those values for myself in order to stay consistent. And like you're saying, with your values, and to have integrity in that which you actually believe. So I think it's a wonderful idea. And I wish, I suppose, more of the world carried the philosophy of radical acceptance, but you do have to give yourself, if you're giving it to others, especially compassion and grace and reverence.
Oh boy. And you were talking about fear. And I think for some of us who grew up in, really fundamentalist type household or high control groups and households, there can be a lot of shame also, that like shaming messages that we received before our identity, just as our identities were forming. So my identity never had a chance to form outside of religion, outside of my parents' very strong, very firm beliefs, because I was second generation. They became religious as adults. They already had their personalities and identities. I did not. Right. And so for those of us who are second gen or third gen, whatever it is, it can be even harder, like so disorienting to have to figure out, well, who am I? If I'm not, it can be terrifying not to be part of that group. And when I think of shame, it's important to realize shame is more than a feeling. It's an entire state. It affects multiple systems in our body, like we'll blush or we'll freeze, whatever it is, it's affecting our autonomic reactions. And this I thought was really interesting. The fact that the autonomic nervous system is activated by shame suggests that the brain interprets shame as a crisis of some sort. And most likely, so if it happened when we were children, the crisis threat was to our relationship with our parents, upon whom we were completely, we depended on them for everything. So if we're being shamed by our parents, there's a danger there to that relationship. And shame is cognitively disorganizing. When we're feeling shame, we can't really think about anything else. It's very isolating. So one thing I do in my practice as a religious recovery consultant is I like a lot of psychoeducation. I like my clients to be learning about their situation and recovery, ideas that they can try to help themselves. And a great antidote for shame is appreciation. And so our parents were not able to maybe reflect appreciation to us. Now we have to do the parenting of ourselves and start cultivating self-appreciation and just appreciation in general, because shame can lead to self-esteem deficits, blaming others, holding on to resentment. It can just really make for an unhappy worldview. And we don't have to stay there. It is possible to move beyond shame. And that's important to think of when we're looking at building our new secular identity. So those are kind of my thoughts on shame there.
Let's get a concrete example about that. We're talking a little bit about it abstractly. What would appreciation look like with, like, I brought this up before. I don't like looking at myself in the mirror. I'm ashamed to have my shirt off at the pool. And I don't like swimming in the pool with a shirt on, and so I avoid pools because of the shame. So how would someone kind of flip that around into appreciation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, there are, concrete, in that example, there are concrete things that one could do, if they were committed to it, if there was time, if they were, going to the gym, whatever, it's possible to change that physique.
Mhm.
So you're, not struggling as much with that. But as far as emotionally, I think this is also where the practice of radical acceptance comes in. This is you. This is who you are. This is the body that you have exactly today, right now, in this moment, as you're sitting there in front of your computer. This is the body that you have. And there are some wonderful aspects to this body. It's kept you going all these years. You've survived everything to this point. And so you
Okay.
may have to be considering other aspects of your body that you can celebrate, and thank yourself for. But really, that whole radical acceptance idea, and it comes without judgments. Just, this is today. Oh, I guess this is my body today. Well, if my body is really hot and wants to go to the beach, guess what? I guess this body's going to the beach, and it's a bikini body because I'm putting a bikini on my body. So.
So you're suggesting I get a bikini? Is that what I'm hearing?
There's been some talk. People would like to see that. Yeah.
This radical self-acceptance, radical, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just call it radical acceptance, but for what we're talking about, because it can be for, oh my God, this situation that the world is in right now, which is so effed up. But there is a point where we have to practice radical acceptance about, okay, this is the situation that the world is in today, or, oh, this is what my relationship looks like today. And then sometimes we have to really take a look at the thoughts that can be flooding into our brain, especially if we're coping with shame around it too. We need to be able to examine those thoughts and try and do it in a truthful and objective manner, like separating the emotion from the thought, if we can. Is it really true? I mean, are people going to look at my body and run screaming? Is anyone going to barf because they see me? Because those are some of the things maybe that I tell myself that prevent me from actually getting on with my life and living my life and enjoying it. I'm allowed to go to the pool. I'm allowed to have this body in a bikini. I'm allowed to enjoy it and enjoy myself. And guess what? You're welcome. We don't have to be dependent on how others view us either.
This sounds really close to fake it till you make it, or Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Good old Stuart. Well,
it sounds similar to that. Is there something different than that, or is it?
One of the notes that I took when I was doing some research on radical acceptance, one of the things that they said was, and I think I gave you the link to radical acceptance. We can share that with the viewers. Think about what you would do if you were able to accept blank. So accept what happened, accept your body, whatever it is. Think about what you would do if you were able to accept it, and then do those things as though you had already accepted it. So one thing I do for myself, because, I'm not a huge fan of the way I look either. So I love to watch videos and read articles and look at models who they don't look like typical models. Maybe they reflect more women my age or women with my body habitus. There's a medical word for you. Just they're shaped more like me. And then to see those people, then I feel more comfortable. And it's easier for me to accept myself. And sometimes I get I get dissatisfied to a point that, okay, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to resume my exercise program or my diet or whatever it is. But until such time as I do that, or maybe I won't do that. I don't have to make myself suffer by my thoughts. I don't have to keep harping on those thoughts over and over again. It is possible for me to shift slightly and think in a different way and do some reframing and take some steps towards having a life where I'm not suffering.
It sounds like work.
I know. I know. I'm
What
sorry.
what do you think would keep us like motivated to continue to do this? Because I know there's a certain amount of time where something becomes habitual, and between the time that you start and that time where the habit starts to kick in, there's a high probability of failure, a high probability of just walking away and giving up. I think feel like if I recall, it's like 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that.
Right.
What do you think we could do what do you suggest we do to keep motivated, if that's the right word, to continue to do this?
I have done sort of a vision board for myself at different times, depending on what it is that I wanted to move towards. And then I would have, because I just cut pictures out of magazines about what did I want to look like, or what. This is a good one for values too, figuring out what your values are. Do you want to have a big family or a little family or no family or 5 dogs or whatever? Cut those things out and slap them onto a piece of cardboard. And so be looking at those things. We can be looking at that and actively trying to figure out, how could I get there? And even thinking about what would my life look like? What might my life look like if I was able to do that? I try and now I don't even just think about what would it be. I just do it. Okay, even though I don't look quite the way I wanted to look, but my partner wants to go to a resort and there's a pool there or the ocean or whatever. I'm not going to let my displeasure with how I look keep me from doing that, keep me from going and enjoying that thing. But this is different kind of than the identity that we started out talking about. It really, truly does take courage for us to change our identity. We have to allow ourselves to be curious, first of all, compassionate with ourselves, non-judgmental. I am curious about this thing, so I'm going to give myself total permission to research and explore. I'm going to watch movies. I'm going to watch videos. I'm going to talk to a doctor or talk to other people I know who have made some of these changes. I'm going to find out. I'm going to lurk in different rooms and just watch and not even necessarily say anything. We can try things on a little bit at a time. We don't have to dive right in and make a huge grand change all at one time. It's a buffet. We're allowed to take a little bite of everything. And if we like it, we can have more. And if we don't like it, we don't have to have any more. We tried it and we're human, and we can decide we don't like it and we can just move on from there. So really practicing self-kindness as well as the radical acceptance. But it does take courage to move from one identity to another, and it happens largely over time.
Yeah, I like that, again, notion where you have to, if, again, kindness is one of your values, right? Practice what you preach. Be kind to yourself. And it's hard to do. And, you're taught it's narcissistic or solipsistic if you do those things. But another thing that I always go back to in situations like that, where you're afraid, right, around, jumping in the pool or something. By the way, there's a great scene in The Office for any Office fans out there, where Darrel is interested in this girl and they're at a pool party and he's ashamed of his body, right? And he doesn't want to get in. So she's like, hey, let's get in the pool. And he's like, nah, you go ahead, have fun. And then he sees everyone in the pool, later on, just having a blast, having a ball. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to sacrifice fun for my own shame and self-consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think
Beautiful.
It's just a small little scene like that can speak bigger volumes.
Yeah.
But another thing I think to myself is, okay, well, if I saw someone else do that, would I ever say anything to them that would make them feel bad about themselves? And my answer is always no, or if I fucked up, oops. But if you feel that way about other people, then again, you want to feel that way about yourself. Don't say those awful things to yourself if you'd never say them to someone else. And some
Right.
people would, and I guess that's the difference here, is that some people don't have those values, and I guess that's how you know who to avoid in your
Yep.
life. Like,
Mhm.
you
And
know
when
that
you're,
people say that, or fuck them.
that's right. That's right. And when your changes are quite apparent to other people, or when if you're a very vocal person who's always on Twitter talking about how you're not a fan of religion, uh, you are going to hear from people who think you're completely wrong,
Right.
think that they see me in the absolute opposite way. They see me in the way that I see them. They see me as being deceived and
Yep.
poor me, all this kind of stuff. And I look at them and I think, wow, I'm sorry that they're still stuck. They're still entrenched in that. But my self-worth is not dependent on what a stranger
That's right.
thinks of me. I care about what my kids think of me,
Yeah.
what my partner thinks of me. And my parents are still religious, so we do not see eye to eye on that whole thing. But thankfully, I've been able to maintain a good enough tie with my mom that we're still, we still love each other. We're still able to connect. Lots of people aren't able to do that.
Mhm.
But if I was so caught up in fear of displeasing her, I would
Mhm.
never have done any of this.
Yeah.
And I see my job primarily as connecting people with resources. That's really what I'm doing with the conferences. And it gives me such pleasure. And I wouldn't have been doing these things at all if I was so worried about offending or disappointing other people. So
Yeah.
there comes a point where you're in this life for you. It's your life. So you get to decide what's important to you and how you're going to spend your time and your resources.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. And it plays back to me to the notion of values as well. Like, why do you value someone else's opinion that has a shitty opinion? Or why do you value someone, if they're not a good person, why do you give a shit what they
Oh, yeah.
think?
Yeah,
So
I like it.
forget about it. Like, be
Mhm.
you, and unless again you're hurting people or you're doing something wrong, and then you have to look inward. But
Mhm.
yeah, it always rolls back to that for me too. It's like, yeah, you get the choice. You don't have to let anyone else's shitty opinion mean that
Oh,
you're something that you're not.
that's right. I got this other quote that I just love here. Be yourself. People don't have to like you, and you don't have to care.
Yes.
I find that
Perfect.
so liberating.
Perfect.
One of the things that's kind of being brought up for me as we're having this discussion is I feel like I was in the habit of just giving up my own desires and wants for the good of the church, the good of the religious community I was around. And so I kind of just left the stuff that I wanted to pursue behind. And I deal with some of that regret too from the time that's been passed. But I can really kind of see that now, just how, and it almost became habit forming. I'm trying now to, it had became habit forming. I'll be perfectly honest. And it's taken a lot of work to kind of get past that and to kind of not let other people's criticisms affect me or
and that's part of radical acceptance as well. The whole idea of I can't change anyone else. I just can't. I can't even change what they think of me. I could do all the best, most wonderful things, and they still might hate me or disapprove of me. So I'm not going to focus on that. Some helpful coping statements for radical acceptance, because we're like replacing some of our previous thoughts. I can only control the present moment. That's true. I can only control. I have these hopes and aspirations and what I'm hoping happens in the future with my conference. But, a couple years ago in 2019, when I was planning CORT 2020, along came the virus, and everything got squashed and sidelined, and I had no control over that. So I had to just accept that I can only control the present moment. Here's another one. When I fight against my worries and negative emotions, I only fuel them to grow larger. So it's more like, yeah, okay, I have this concern. This is a concern I have. Sometimes I even write down my concerns just to try and get them out of my head.
Yeah.
So they're not taking up space there. Sometimes I might share that concern with someone else because maybe they have a good idea that I've never thought of before of, how I can resolve a situation. I'm able to accept the present moment exactly as it is. I am. What choice do I have? I mean, I could get in a convoy and I could go drive to Ottawa and like complain about it, but all that, nothing those people are doing, they're demanding the end to all the mandates. None of that is actually going to solve the problem, which is this terrible pandemic. So they're just frustrated and they're expressing that, frustration, but it's not actually doing anything. It makes them feel powerful because they, in their mind, they're taking some action and they're in a group of like-minded people. But I'm able to accept the present moment exactly as it is. And here's the last one I think is really good. What I'm going through right now is hard, but it's temporary. It's temporary. I'm going to get through it. Even though my life might be forever changed by this thing that I did not want to happen. But the reality is, this thing has happened. And my life is going to look different. But just because life looks different than you imagined, it doesn't mean that it can't still be beautiful and rewarding and happy again sometime down the road.
Janice, thank you so much. Is there anything else you feel like we hadn't covered?
I've got a couple more quotes for you.
Oh, your quotes are gold. You're like the golden goose who puts out golden quotes.
Well, thank you. I've never been told that before. Authenticity is a superpower. Harness it to shape your life. In today's world, people are shocked. They're taken aback by authenticity. So use it to your advantage. And the last one is a quote by
authenticity.
Is
some people say, well, I'm just telling it how it is. And that's more of like I see that more of as like they're taking license to be a total dick or something like that.
Oh,
what would authenticity look like?
In that moment, you mean if someone is saying that to me, if they're saying I'm just saying it how it is, what would I mean? My authenticity would be, did I ask for your opinion? I don't actually give a shit, buddy. This is about
all right,
me.
got
it. There are sometimes we don't need to say things at all. Sometimes people simply say things to try and get under our skin. Sometimes people say things because they haven't thought it through and they're not intentionally trying to hurt us. And in your own authenticity, you can say, that sounded a lot like such and such, or gee, when you say that, you know what? I'm feeling blah, blah, blah. Is that what you meant? Is that how you meant it? And then you're giving them the opportunity to think about it and to rephrase it. And you're not being a jerk about it. You're not like, how dare you? You're like, did you actually mean to say what I heard? Because sometimes they really didn't. And it's just our own programming that we have. And that's how we're perceiving what they said. So yeah, it's possible to be yourself and not be a jerk.
Perfect. And one last quote you said you had?
One last quote, and I've used it before, but I really like it. It's by JFK. And he said, conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. So you don't have to conform. You don't have to conform. You're allowed to be yourself. And that's it. That's all she wrote.
I love it. Janice, thank you so much. I'm looking through the chat, and so many people were touched and got out a lot out of this. So many people needed to hear what you had to say. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, everybody.
We have a couple of questions. Let me get down to it. Okay. We're kind of talking about this from within the framework of like a country where it's not a totalitarian regime or we're sort of outside a very controlling cult, even though there are folks who no longer believe and they're trapped inside of these cults. A lot of this discussion sounds like it, it doesn't necessarily apply to those people. How can one have the courage to be themselves if they're in a primarily Muslim country or something like that?
I think safety has to be paramount for us, and so we always need to consider how safe we are in any given situation to disclose anything about ourselves. Because some places it's a lot safer than other places, and you might be living in that situation, and you absolutely don't agree. You don't have anything good to say about that religion, or you're an atheist. You don't believe those things at all, but you might still be forced to practice, to wear the head veiling, or to do the prayers, do the motions, and then I think you're going to be practicing radical acceptance of your situation. You are in a very unfortunate and unfair circumstance where you have to outwardly conform and pretend about these things to save your life or to save the lives of your family. So you have to get to a point where you're okay with that. It's okay. You're doing what you have to do to stay safe. Sometimes we have to do very difficult things in order to ensure our own safety, but on the inside what you believe, and I salute you for that.
I've got another one here, which is kind of a curious question, but
Okay.
do affirmations really work?
I think they can. I think they can if they're realistic, and I think maybe it also depends, what a person is using them for. So it has to be believable to you.
Right.
So when I say to myself, I can accept this present moment. I know that I can. I have the ability. I don't like it. It might be a terrible, terrible thing, but I can accept it. And in fact, we have to embrace reality if we are going to have any forward momentum, be able to grow and move forward and not get stuck. Because otherwise, you're just living in a fantasy. Yeah. So being able to really practice that radical acceptance of reality, it's very important.
Yeah. When you were talking about identity, it made me think a lot again about the fear that we have in not being ourselves. There's, in some cases, as was referenced, a justified reason for that fear, and many other cases that fear is not. But I kind of wanted to explore and ask you about what's the danger in tying your identity to anything other than yourself and your values, and we see that now with politics. People can't be wrong about something because they've been so they've tied their entire identity to their political ideology.
Yes.
So I just wanted you to comment on that if you could.
Right. And we experience that as when we're fundamentalists about anything, and fundamentalism invades every sphere because we are human. So you can be a fundamentalist when it comes to environmental issues, nutrition, religion, politics. Those are kind of the main ones there. And when our identity gets enmeshed with our ideology, then any critique of that ideology, we perceive it as a direct threat because it's our identity. And it's like at the beginning of our program when I was talking about how my framework all dissolved. And that is terrifying. That plunges you into existential fear. What if nothing is real? What if everything I thought was ever real is not real? How can I ever trust myself again? Like all these horrible, difficult questions will spring up for us. So people, you have to have all kinds of cognitive defenses and psychological defenses built up to shore up your identity when your identity is attached to your beliefs. So we need to be able to hold things loosely so that if new information
Oh,
presents
Janice, that's
itself tomorrow.
perfect.
We can release what we thought, what we
Yeah.
believe today, and to allow for the new information. So holding things loosely and loving yourself always, because I'm sorry, my friend, but you are going to fuck up sometimes. And so you just have to be able to then radically accept that. Whoops, I made this mistake. And sometimes we have to be public about it. You know what? I believed this thing. I believed it with all my heart. I raised my children and demanded that they believed it. And now new information has come to light for me. And I see that it's not worth believing anymore. I don't believe it anymore. And I'm sorry if I led you to believe it as well. That's not who I am anymore. And that is very humbling, and that can be very hard to do. But it's what I had to do in order to move on.
So we've got two more here. How do you handle it when tragedy or illness invites your friends to use your situation to try to draw you back into that religion that traumatized you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I still sometimes struggle with is when I'm scared about something or something very difficult is happening. Like right now, my diabetic daughter has COVID, and it's very scary for me. And I have this feeling of, remember when I used to pray and how good it felt to be able to pray, because I believed that there was an almighty God who was listening and actually caring, maybe taking notes. If he was in a good mood, maybe he'd even reach down and touch her and heal her. But I know at this point that was me talking to myself. Every time I prayed, I was talking to myself. And so on some level, I was able to make myself feel better, because I did feel better when I did that. But so now I have a different, now I'll reach out to some trusted people and say, I'm worried about this, and I just need you to know that I'm worried about it. And they can say, wow, that's really hard. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. And what can I do tonight? Can I do anything concrete to help you out? So I happened to leave religion partly because my daughter got sick. I mean, when a child is afflicted with a life-threatening illness and they have done nothing, they're completely innocent. That to me spoke of a capricious God, or a God who didn't care, or a God who was wicked, or something like that. So that actually was my exit door out of religion, out of Christianity. So there's not really too much that would draw me back in. But I told the story about wanting to pray just because, I want you to know that, yeah, sometimes that part of me still feels sad, still misses some of those old comforting things, but I have developed new behaviors and new ways of coping. And part of it is also the radical acceptance of what is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So having been indoctrinated, says in God's word is absolute truth and salvation, says, I'm afraid of being wrong about who I am. And how can I overcome this fear of missing the mark?
I think it would be good to take a look at, so what are you afraid of if you are somehow wrong? What are you afraid will happen? Is that person still coping with a fear of hell, or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting from the question, or is that there's almost like a goal to hit, as in like, this is who I am. It's out there on the side of a barn, and I somehow have to get to that mark. But from what I hear you're kind of talking about, we get to make this up. If we don't like who we are, we can move on to something else. It's really flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also where the values clarification can come in determining what kind of a human do I want to be? Who am I? Am I satisfied with who I am, or would I actually rather be living differently in some area of my life. And again, I think of that buffet. Life is a huge buffet table, and we're able to go just from food to food, trying it out. Do I like it? No, not really. Do I like it? Oh yeah, give me more of this. And we get to decide that. That's not for anyone else to decide. And again, there's no shame in recognizing, oh, I tried something, but I actually didn't like it. I guess it's not, and I guess it's not who I am. And that's another reason also, maybe we don't want to dive in with both feet and broadcast immediately. I'm this or I'm that, we're allowed to try things on and see how we feel and go at our own pace. And yeah, it's good to figure out who you are so that you can live authentically.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And I find it interesting too that this idea of missing the mark, it means that you're being, you're wrong, I guess, but it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be something that where I had a friend of mine not too long ago when I was having a political conversation with them. They're like, well, hey, you used to champion free market economics. And I'm like, that's who I was, not who I am.
Nice.
And, it's interesting because there's a line that I think it carries with me, and something I think that we all remember is that it's from a song, a really beautiful song called, and he says, we are what we grow into and not what we were. And I just think that we need to remember that as we go through life and ask ourselves these questions. It's like you're, like you said, creating and recreating your identity and who you are every single day you're alive, and that can change, and that at any moment, and it's entirely up to you. And there should be no shame in having been wrong about that and being a person that maybe you didn't want to be.
You've grown, change is and even regret is evidence of growth. It means, I wouldn't do it that way again. If the situation comes up again, I won't do it that same way. And so while we need to give ourselves lots of room to grow, we need to also offer that and extend that to other people. Someone might not be tomorrow who they are today. We have to, and that can be tricky when we're in close relationship, if we're partnered or spouses with somebody. It can be hard on us when we see our kids going in directions that we'd rather they didn't go or grow in. But they have to make their own decisions and their own choices and develop their own identity.
Janice, thank you so much. This is such a great conversation.
Good.
I'm going to drop more information about Janice into the chat, so folks check out everywhere you can find her. Before we kind of wrap up, Janice, do you have any final words or final thoughts that you would like to? The whole conversation was awesome, but anything else you'd like to say?
I think really just being kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I think especially as the world continues to be in this topsy-turvy state, there's a lot of things we can't control, but we can control whether we're going to be kind to ourselves and to others. So be kind.
Awesome. Janice, we're going to have a hangout afterwards. Do you have some time to stick around and interact with the folks who are here? Awesome. Great. And can we have you on again? Because I miss you.
Oh, it's been so long. I want you to bring me back so we can have some talk about sex, because we're going to be working up towards the Shameless Sexuality.
Okay.
Great.
Let's talk about sex, baby. You and me.
Yes, I have to second that. It's my first time, being here with you, Janice, but I got to say, love you. This was an amazing talk.
Thank you.
Really wonderful. So we got to have you back.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And Eric, I got a host.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Fair
that
enough.
sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't wrong. This has been another fantastic discussion, another great episode of RfRx. You may think, how could we possibly top this? Well, folks, we've got another one coming up next Monday, same bat time, same bat channel, unless your country or state decides to do something weird about daylight saving time, which is always a possibility. Next week, we are going to have Farron Wiley on. We tried to get him on last year, but there were some technical difficulties. This is the rescheduled session. So the description of the discussion, so it's RfRx, who TF am I now? Who the fuck am I now with Farron Wiley? And again, this conversation, I think, is going to transition. The one we just had is going to transition really well into the one we're going to have next week too. Transitioning out of religion isn't easy. Many of us have built our personal identity around our religious worldview and community. But what do we do when that's gone or slipping away? We may be left feeling perplexed, confused, depressed, and anxious in the aftermath of departing long-held faith practices. This RfRx discussion will focus on strategies to rebuild a sense of self and self-worth after one's religious identity is stripped away, as well as making rational decisions about unhealthy behaviors in contrast with sin consciousness. Think about, for folks who have come out of religion, think about those words. I'd never heard sin consciousness before, but it made perfect sense. So I'm really looking forward to having this discussion with Farron Wiley. Trent?
Yes, sir. And if you're curious about these talks, and someone had asked about it earlier, if I can rewatch this, yes, you can. They're all on YouTube. And so just find RfRx, Recovering from Religion, but they're RfRx, and you will find all of our recordings that we have done here up to however far we've caught up with video.
Oh, we are caught up,
We're
brother.
caught up.
Oh my gosh. There's going to be one coming out Wednesday, one coming out Saturday, and then this one will come out the following Wednesday.
Wonderful, wonderful. So check them out there. And yes, any questions, comments, inquiries, etc., can be sent via email. That's going to be down in the chat. Follow the podcast, please. Also, you'll find in the chat. And then follow us on social media. Weird thing that you hate saying because it's annoying and you don't want to be one of those people, but it really helps us. And it just gets people knowing who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. And we do damn good work. So follow on the Facebook page, support group page, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all of them. They're all going to be in the chat for you. And then we have a newsletter, just letting you guys know what's going on. And that's going to be in the chat as well. Provides you with news that is coming out, recent resources, things like that we can give you access to, recent published videos, and blog posts and things of that nature. So, Eric?
You bet. Hey, there's one thing that I want to let you know. If you aren't subscribed to our YouTube channel, fine, whatever. But you're missing out because I have, for over the last few months, I've been sitting down with the directors of all of the various programs in Recovering from Religion, and we've been talking about what each individual program does. And so this is like getting to know RFR. This is a series that we're calling All About RFR. And the first episode just released on Sunday with Gail Jordan, and they're going to be released every Sunday over the next, it's 17 parts. It was a lot of work, but subscribe to the YouTube channel because there is some fantastic, some other stuff there too, other than just this RFRX. I'm really, really proud and really, really excited of this All About RFR series. All right. At the end of every RfRx, we have a feedback poll. I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on this. It really kind of helps with programming in the future. And while that poll is going, I would like to bring, as I promised at the beginning, I'd like to bring the one, the only, the amazing, the founder and president of Recovering from Religion, Dr. Darrel Ray. Hello, sir.
Hello. I feel like I'm being introduced to a circus or something here. Okay. Or a magician show. Hey, Janice, thanks for coming on here again. I was shocked when you cursed on our program here. We didn't Eric advise you that we don't fucking allow any cursing on our program? But anyway, yeah, you can curse a lot more. You just seem to be a little hesitant. I mean, whatever.
Duly noted, sir. Next time.
We wouldn't want you to bring any of your religious inhibitions here in one of your talks. Oh no, we've tried to help teach Eric how to curse better and more creatively. So, all right. Well, I would just want to say thank you for coming. And every time I hear you talk, I'm blown away by your perseverance. You took CORT 2019, and through the disappointment and the difficulty and all the shit that happened around that just because of the pandemic, and you turned that lemon into lemonade. And 2020 was awesome. I was really, I'm going to confess, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if it would come off, but you pulled it off beautifully. Orders of magnitude better than I thought. So I'm really looking forward to the next one coming up. And after purity culture one is really such a creative idea. Nobody is talking about this shit. And I am glad you are talking about it, because as a result, I mean, just think about it. If somebody searches purity culture, even if they're still in it, and they find your conference with all these talks or some version of that, it's going to have, you're hitting it head on. And that's just so beautiful. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And for all of you out there in RFR land, I want to underline Janice's emphasis on values clarification. To me, that is such a very interesting way to help you understand how you want to form your journey. Because so many of the values we live every day, as Janice said, were imposed upon us, forced upon us, threatened upon us. There's all sorts of stuff that was forced upon us, and they're not our values. And you have to ask the question, what if you were raised in a secular family from childhood, and your secular parents let you find your own values? That's the real question. What values would you have today? And anyway, thanks for bringing it up. I hadn't really thought about values clarification for several years until tonight. I thought, well, that's exactly right. I appreciate that. Thanks, Janice. Back to you. Hey, one last thing. Our fundraiser, Eric talked about earlier, put it on your calendar or go donate right now. You can possibly donate. If you don't, then put out social media to let people know about us. And come join us at the hours, Eric. The hours are 6 to 10 o'clock on February 19th, Central Time.